Welcome to How Do They Afford That, the podcast that peeks into the financial lives of everyday Australians. I'm Michael Thompson. I'm a writer and the co-host of the podcast Fear and Greed Business News. As always, I'm with Canna Campbell, financial planner, founder of Sugar Mama TV, the financial literacy platform that is quite literally everywhere. YouTube, podcasts, books, Instagram, threads, TikTok, keynote speeches and more. Hello, Canna.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you. And today is a serious topic.
I know. I should ask you, how are you feeling today? Not how are you? That's just surface level.
No,
how are you feeling today?
Well, this is because we're talking about mental health.
Yeah, very important.
Aren't we? We're talking about mental health and money because the two just come together so often. We know that money can have a huge impact on your mental health. There's obviously the stress. The most obvious one that comes to mind is the stress and anxiety that kind of comes from financial insecurity, perhaps from being in debt, from just not having enough money to go around.
Or not even knowing what to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there were some pretty startling stats only a few weeks ago. They're from suicide prevention organisation Lifeline. That they showed that they received, on average, 300 calls every day from people whose distress was rooted in money troubles.
That doesn't surprise me at all. And I read some similar statistics probably a couple of months ago. You know, this is something we really need to get on top of and help people.
Yeah, indeed. And really, it's only part of it is that kind of distress around not having enough money to kind of go around, because even the name of this podcast, kind of how do they afford that, kind of can almost be linked back to the mental health angle here. That question of kind of how do they afford that goes to those feelings of inadequacy, of comparing yourself to other people, of kind of self-esteem and identity that all get tied up in money. And when you see other people achieving or buying nice things for themselves, and you wonder why you aren't able to do that for yourself as well, and it is not a healthy cycle.
Exactly.
So, lots to cover today. Before we start, we do have to make it clear that we are not mental health professionals. And if your financial wellbeing is impacting your mental health, you can seek help from a free financial counsellor through the National Debt Helpline on 1800 007 007. We'll put those details in the show notes as well. And Lifeline is always available, 13 11 14. Canna, how do you kind of quantify this? How do you describe the connection between financial well-being and mental health? There is a lot to it, isn't there?
There is so much. So financial stress can impact our mood, our motivation, and just our general outlook on life. You know, when we're stressed about money, just doing normal everyday tasks and even handling challenges can just feel so much harder to get through and see the other side. But on the flip side, when we have some element of financial security in our lives, whether it be some financial clarity, whether it be a goal that we're working on or excited about, or even a game plan that we're about to put in place or is already in force, it really does boost our sense of self-confidence and faith. And it helps us manage stress in a far more resilient way and gives us back an element of self-control, but the ability to see into the future and see there is light at the end of the tunnel. We're gonna get there. We're just going to keep focused, keep going. It's going to be okay, and hang in there. What
I like is that you're already talking about solutions here. I'm a
solutions type of person.
You absolutely are. So here I am just dwelling on the problem, and you're going, okay, yep, this is the problem. Let's jump straight to how we can kind of help it. And without wanting to focus too much on the negative part of it, I do want to talk a bit more about some of these triggers and some of these, just so we get an understanding of where some of the pressure points are within household finances, some of those triggers that can actually cause mental health challenges. And then later we'll get to really maybe some strategies for helping to deal with this. What would you say that some of the biggest financial stresses are that people face that have an impact on mental health? Looking at it, I would guess debt would be a big one, perhaps the biggest.
Most definitely. So that would probably be the biggest source of financial stress, because it can feel like a constant weight. And then you add in, you know, the interest rates and the rising cost of living, and that just compounds the stress even further. And it can feel literally, for a lot of people, insurmountable at times. But it's not actually just debt. You know, it's a bit of a sweeping generalisation. It can be lots of other things like job insecurity, if you're seeing people in your workplace being let go, housing costs, unexpected expenses like a medical bill or a dental bill or even legal bills. Anyone going through a separation in the court system, that's really stressful financially. And then there's things, the unexpected, like, a car repair. So these can also create a huge amount of financial stress and make you feel financially unstable.
Okay. And I mentioned at the beginning this idea of just not being enough money to go around. And you said that when you are worried about money, when you have this kind of thing, every single thing that you do suddenly feels harder. And all of a sudden, when you're not even sure if there's going to be enough money to pay for the groceries or to pay the rent or the mortgage or the power bill or any one of these things, just everything suddenly feels very difficult, doesn't it?
And you can't see, the forest from the trees, and that's when, you do need to put your hand up and get help, but we'll come to that.
What about the impact of money problems on self-esteem and identity? And I mentioned this one before, this feeling that yes, okay, there's never enough money, but this idea that other people have more than you, or maybe that you've missed the opportunity to kind of make a difference to your situation, that you can't get ahead, that everyone is kind of achieving and you're not. And social media, I think, probably has a role to play in this as well.
Social media is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It can be a brilliant place of inspiration, motivation, and education.
Yeah.
But it also can make you feel like crap, and not just money. Your appearance, your health and fitness. Your whatever you've achieved in life. It can work both ways. So you've got to obviously go in with a healthy mindset, which when you're stressed about money makes it very, very hard to do. But you're absolutely right. You can see these people, moving into their first home or renovating or going on holiday, and you can feel like you aren't successful enough, or you're not even frugal enough, or you're not smart enough to make the best decision with your money. It can really just, compound the situation even worse. And we've got to remember, obviously, social media is where we see the highlights. We see that person, moving into their home or going on that holiday. We don't see the sacrifices that have gone on, or the amount of time that person may have actually been saving to buy that home. We don't see that insight necessarily. So you've got to obviously take off the rose-tinted glasses and look at the reality of the situation and understand you have no idea what's gone on behind closed doors, and not take things so personally. And as I say, you can use it as a source of inspiration and motivation as well. But, it can be at times incredibly toxic, because it makes you feel like you've missed the boat, that you're never going to catch up. But it's one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And, I've been a financial planner for 22 years, and nothing is what it seems. So many different things go on behind closed doors that people don't know about.
I'll tell you a little story then about when my first novel was published, right? And this is it shows just how much you can get sucked into believing or just believing what you see on social media, that is the entire story kind of behind it. And look, things were going well. The book was published here and kind of in other markets and things, but I would see a lot of other posts from other people that have also published books, and all of a sudden they were on kind of bestseller lists, and things like, and all of these fantastic things were happening. And someone said to me, they said, what was the saying? Comparison is the thief of joy. As soon as you start comparing yourself to others, you lose the ability to have joy and feel that joy in what you've achieved yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that was a really kind of powerful moment for me, because there was a lot of joy in that process of having my novel published and seeing people reading it and enjoying it. And all of a sudden I was not enjoying it because I was seeing, other people are achieving more with theirs, and they're getting on all of these other kind of lists and things overseas. And I'm like, I should just take a step back and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that,
proud of all the hard work.
Yeah, and that idea, comparison is the thief of joy, is just such a powerful kind of statement in terms of the comparisons that you make to other people, when really it is a very hard thing to do, though, to take a step back and just try and enjoy your own achievements.
What I say to myself when I catch myself doing something similar, and I remind myself I'm giving away my energy. The moment I start comparing myself, I'm giving away, wasting all that energy. That is energy that I could be using for myself to stay and work on what I'm building, what I'm trying to achieve. Not, the moment I step into that place where I start comparing, all that energy that I can channel into working on those goals of my own or my personal growth and development just disappears. So redirect it back to you and remind yourself about what you're capable of doing and what you have actually already achieved.
Yeah. Money obviously has an impact on relationships too. We're talking about the mental health impact, but it has a significant impact then on relationships as well. And I don't want to dwell too much on this because we've done full episodes on money and relationships, but it is all tied together, isn't it?
Definitely. And, the obvious signs out there, are sleeping. That waking up at 1 o'clock, staring at the ceiling till, 4 o'clock in the morning. And then, of course, the alarm goes off, 6, 7 o'clock and you're grumpy and irritable and you have this sensation of dread and burying your head in the sand, not wanting to open up your mail, not opening up emails, ignoring text messages of things being overdue. These are the warning signs. You've got to do something about it and get some help.
One last question, and then I want to get to some positive elements, some solutions, some things to try. Do you think a lack of financial literacy has an impact on mental health in Australia? Because the challenge with financial literacy here is well known. It's been talked about a lot, the fact that young people are leaving school without a lot of knowledge just about the day-to-day managing of money. Do you think that kind of not knowing how money works and what we should be doing with money is kind of setting us up to fail from a mental health perspective?
Yes. Just like we've been told about food, about eating well helps our mood, understanding the basics of money helps with our, dealing with stress. So understanding money and personal finance is paramount.
Yeah.
So when you understand about money, you know where to start, you know what to do, what's the next step and where to get advice from, where to get help, who to talk to and, how to, build your way out of the situation and build that element of financial resilience. But at the heart of that is financial literacy, understanding what debt is, how to use debt properly, what different types of debt, understanding the power of, a budget and understanding how to manage your cash flow correctly. So absolutely, that is where we look towards solutions.
And it feels like that is a perfect segue into Solution Town, which is where we are headed for next, feels like it's just like a terribly kind of mixed metaphor, just all of a sudden. What I'm trying to say is we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to get onto the positive stuff. We're going to talk about how some simple solutions, some simple strategies that you can start to implement that can improve your relationship with money and then improve your outlook on money as well. We'll do that in a sec. Hannah, we are talking today about mental health and money. We've talked a lot about the challenge so far. Now let's look at the support and the solutions, starting with education, right? And we touched on that a moment ago. This is about kind of educating yourself so that you can take control of your own future, right?
Absolutely. And there are so many brilliant free resources out there. So, one of my favorites is the Money Smart website, which is created by ASIC. And there is so much easy to understand basics of money. And they've broken it down in a very intuitive way to dissect and go through. And literally you could spend hours on there and learn so much in a very short period of time, even though I contradict myself by saying hours, because it is fascinating and they explain everything brilliantly. And it's neutral. It's not leading you somewhere or trying to influence you in any way whatsoever.
Can I make a small confession?
Yeah.
There have been a couple of occasions when, before coming into the studio to talk to you about something, I have actually gone on to the Money Smart website in order to make sure that I understood, because suddenly, as soon as we're getting into terminology, and it was around some of the debt recycling and some of the those kinds of things and some concepts around money, that this website, moneysmart.gov.au, really, it is such a valuable resource because you can just go on and in like a minute, you can decipher what these terms mean. And all of a sudden you are in an infinitely better position than you were a minute ago.
And it's really easy to read, particularly if you are feeling overwhelmed, because it's not like it's pages and pages and thick, heavy paragraphs. They're short, sharp sentences that go straight to the point.
Yeah.
And you can also, that everything's neatly segmented.
Yeah.
So that is probably on my number one top tip. There's also, even if for people who want to start understanding about building wealth, the ASX have so many free online courses as well that, everybody can access from the comfort and privacy of their own home and at their own time as well. Mm-hmm. And of course, your local library. There are so many free books, on how to do money. And some that just focus on budgeting and cash flow. Some of them focus on debt. Some of them focus on super. Some of them focus on investing, or some of them a bit of everything.
Yeah.
They're there for free. And, and you can do obviously online courses that, you pay for as well. You can obviously go and get advice as well from a financial planner. So there is so much help, on top of the financial counselling as well.
Financial counselling. I want to ask you about that because in a very practical sense, there are some very kind of real, immediate steps that you can take if you need help and if you need urgent help. Financial counsellors, we mentioned them at the top of the show, and just again, then what assistance do they actually provide?
Well, as it is sort of sounds obvious, the counselling element to help you with the emotional support.
Okay.
Helping you have faith, find confidence, and also, get a practical strategy in place to help get you out of the situation that you're in. So that, first of all, you've got someone holding your hand, you don't feel vulnerable and alone and insecure. Someone's going to walk you through this. Mm-hmm. But they're also equipped with the practical side. So teaching you, how to do a budget. Also helping you negotiate any debts that you've got, or understanding what the different options lie ahead for you in helping fix the situation. So they're there to equip you with the emotional support as well as help create a strategy to help fix the situation so that you can get back on track and rebuild your life again.
And so the starting point there would be National Debt Helpline is a good kind of port of call, 1800 007 007.
Absolutely.
Just jump on Google as well. Like a lot of, isn't it funny that we still give out phone numbers for everything, but really most people are just going to jump onto Google and just type kind of financial counsellors or National Debt Helpline. And that is a great thing to do. And
there are so many different providers out there that now offer financial counselling.
I mentioned terminology and the fact that I have gone to the Money Smart website to look up some of the terminology. I want to throw some terms at you now that are all different things that you can consider if you are in a situation where your mental health is being put at risk, I suppose, by your money pressures and you're not sure kind of where to go. Hardship applications, waiver of debts, working development orders, things like that. What do these mean? How do you use them?
Okay, so it really depends what state you're in because they do vary. Mm-hmm. But, hardship applications, you can submit an application quite often, for example, to a utilities provider, explaining your situation because, there's this assumption that people who have bad financial situations because they made a stupid mistake or did something silly. Sometimes you just get, a bad hand of cards? Is that saying?
You get dealt a bad hand.
Dealt a bad, that's the word I'm looking for, the saying. You get dealt a bad hand.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
I think so. Goodness me.
Gosh. Sorry.
No. This is what we need is the Money Smart website equivalent for sayings that Canna is going to use and possibly mangle during the show.
Yeah, pretty much.
You can just jump on it. It's called Google, I suppose. Just what is that saying about getting a bad hand of cards?
So things happen, and I've spoken about this in the past. Often multiple bad things happen one after the other. So, people shouldn't be ashamed and blame themselves. Sometimes it's just bad luck. So, you can submit an application and where you explain your story, what you've done, how you've tried to help yourself and see what leniency can be applied. Obviously, there are debt waivers where they can look to reduce that debt. You can look for grants, which are obviously quite self-explanatory. But then the one I think I learned about recently, which I think is most valuable, is this work and development order. Now, this isn't every single state, but what you can essentially do is it goes down a sort of mental health application and you have to get it approved. But you can potentially get up to $1,000 per month taken off your fines by doing unpaid work or agreeing to participate in a certain number of hours of counselling.
So fines, as in kind of like speeding fines, those kinds of things.
Speeding fines, parking fines, infringements, all those sorts of...
Okay, all right. So these are state government-based fines, and this is an arrangement that is made with a state government body. to allow you to essentially work off those debts?
Up to $1,000 per month.
Okay.
Which can actually help some people in that situation where things have gotten out of control.
Yeah.
See that there is a strategy to be able to get back in the driving seat again, and also to learn from their mistakes, or learn from, where they were going wrong, so that they don't ever repeat history.
Can I ask you about some of the emotions involved with all of this? Because a lot of people feel, I suppose, shame or guilt around money issues. How do you work through these feelings? And that's too big a question to deal with in the last, 2.5 minutes of the podcast. But where do you even start dealing with, say, guilt and shame attached to money? Well,
speaking from, I guess, not so much financial experience, but from personal experience and going through hard times in my past, and I've been very open about my mental health journey myself. But you've got to remember, feelings are just clouds. They do move and they do pass. So you can't let them define you, because you're feeling like this today doesn't mean tomorrow is going to be the same thing. So, and struggling with money is very, very common. I mean, look at these numbers, released by Lifeline. So learning to talk about them, name it, and it is that place of acceptance, so that you can then start to release it and let it go, and move from a place of being stuck in fear and panic and overwhelm into that place of solutions. And that's why, getting in touch with someone, finding a support group, talking to someone that you trust and can confide in them with confidence is how you're going to help overcome those feelings of shame and guilt and embarrassment and remorse, and start moving in the teeny tiniest steps forward back into a place where you want to be. And that's why I always say, like I say, I'm such a solutions-based person, because the moment you can actually start thinking about what you do want, rather than thinking constantly about the problem, that's when you're able to kind of step out and get a new perspective. And it's that saying, you can't read the label when you're inside the jar.
All right. So I haven't heard that. It makes perfect sense, though.
I got one saying right today.
Until we find out later that it is in fact wrong. Yeah, so you can't read the label while you're inside the packet.
But, you be able to just take a moment and understand this does not define you.
Yeah.
You can recover. And I have to say, some of the people that I have helped and coached and counselled with money problems have actually, by doing the work and doing the work correctly in the right type of gestation period, not try and rush it, are the ones that have thrived, and they've never slipped back and let those old habits come back to bite them.
I think that's a perfect place to leave it. You are leaving this on a very positive point. Like, it is all about, and now I almost feel bad for having kind of spent so long kind of dwelling on the problems in the first half of the episode, when really it is all about those tips and those ideas on how to kind of help overcome some of those challenges. Where can people find more information from you, should they want to get in touch?
Please reach out directly to me on Instagram. That's the best place to speak with me. And, mental health, it can be, when it's not as healthy as it would like to be, it can be an incredibly frightening and isolating place. So reach out to support it. And of course, reach out to people you trust, and you've got to put your hand up. A problem shared is a problem halved.
Yeah, well said. And of course, the National Debt Helpline was the organisation that we mentioned before, and Lifeline, available at 13 11 14. You can hear me as well every day with Sean Aylmer on Fear and Greed, daily business news for people who make their own decisions. Thank you very much for listening to How Do They Afford That? Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and the best thing that you can do is to tell somebody else, or better yet, if you think that they might benefit from hearing this episode, then send them the link and let them listen to it for themselves. Thank you very much for your company. Join us again next week.